Before we begin, if you believe relationships don't end because of hate, they end because of silence, then this story is for you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the stories we share here aren't just entertainment. They're reflections of real emotions, real mistakes, and real second chances. Tonight's story isn't loud. It doesn't begin with shouting. It doesn't begin with betrayal. It begins with something far more dangerous: distance. And sometimes, the most painful thing in a marriage is not being cheated on. It's being slowly unseen. Let's begin. The night didn't announce itself as important. It didn't arrive with drama. It came softly, like it always did. Rain brushed gently against the windows of the modern two-story home in Portland, Oregon. The streetlights outside glowed faintly through the thin mist, casting long shadows across the quiet living room. Inside, everything looked normal. Too normal. Emily Carter sat upright on the couch, a remote resting lightly in her hand. The television screen in front of her was black, unlit, waiting. She wasn't watching anything. She was listening for the sound she had grown used to. Ice. A soft clink as cubes dropped into a glass in the kitchen. Right on time. 9:12 p.m. Dinner had been cleaned. The dishes were dry. The house smelled faintly of soap and leftover pasta. From the outside, it was a peaceful home. From the inside, something was fading. Emily's legs were crossed neatly. Her shoulders looked relaxed, but tension lived beneath her skin. Her jaw was set, her breathing careful. She had learned how to wait without looking like she was waiting. In the kitchen, Daniel Brooks stood with his back to her. Tall, broad shoulders. Still handsome in that quiet, effortless way that used to make her heart race. He wore a simple gray t-shirt and jeans. Casual. Comfortable. Once she loved watching him do ordinary things like pour a drink. Now it only reminded her how far away he felt. Even when he was 5 feet away. He walked into the living room and sat at the opposite end of the couch. Not too far, but far enough. His phone was already in his hand. So, he said casually, eyes still on the screen. Did you pick something? Emily looked at him. Not at his face. At the way he didn't look at hers. I thought you might want to choose, she replied gently. He shrugged. Everything feels the same lately, he muttered. Nothing really grabs me. The words were simple, but they landed heavily. Nothing really grabs me. She wondered for a moment if he meant the shows. Or something else. She didn't ask. Because some questions change everything. Emily didn't respond right away. She pressed the power button on the remote, and the television came to life with a soft glow that filled the room in pale blue light. It illuminated the walls, the framed photos, the bookshelf they had assembled together years ago. Photos of vacations, birthdays, smiling faces frozen in time, moments that felt louder in pictures than they ever did in memory. Daniel leaned back, stretching slightly, still scrolling through his phone. Just put on anything, he said. Something interesting. Something real. Something real. Emily felt that word settle into her chest like a weight. Real. She glanced at him carefully. His expression wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It was worse. It was indifferent. That quiet, distracted restlessness that had slowly become a third presence in their marriage. She remembered when real meant staying up until 2 a.m. talking about dreams. When real meant spontaneous road trips. When real meant sitting too close on a couch that was too small in their first apartment in Seattle. Back then, they couldn't afford furniture. They watched movies on a laptop balanced on a cardboard box. Daniel used to pull her close during scenes he thought were boring. He'd whisper jokes in her ear. She'd pretend to be annoyed. But she loved it. She never wondered if she was enough back then. Now she wondered every night. The TV menu flickered across the screen. What kind of real? She asked quietly. Daniel finally looked up. He studied the screen, not her. I don't know. Just something that makes you feel something. Not this repetitive stuff. Not dull. Dull. The word echoed. She swallowed. The room felt colder. She nodded once, stood up, and walked toward the television. Her movements were steady, controlled. Inside, her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Daniel didn't notice. He rarely noticed anymore. And that was the problem. There had been a time when Daniel noticed everything. If she changed her shampoo, he would comment on it. If she was quiet for even a few minutes, he'd ask what she was thinking. If she wore a sweater he liked, he'd tell her she looked beautiful. Now days passed without him really seeing her at all. He saw dinner. He saw laundry folded. He saw a house that functioned. But he didn't see the woman inside it. And she didn't know when that shift had happened. There was no fight. No explosion. Just slow erosion. Like water wearing down stone. Emily stood in front of the television. Her hand hovered over the remote. This was the moment. She had recorded those clips months ago. Late at night. Sometimes after he fell asleep. Sometimes when he told her he'd be home late. And came home even later. At first, she told herself it was silly. A private journal in video form. A way to understand her own feelings. But over time, those clips became something else. Proof. Not of his cruelty, but of her loneliness. She turned back toward him. I found something, she said calmly. Daniel leaned back further into the couch. Good, he replied. I just want to feel something. Her chest tightened. You will, she thought. You will. She walked back to the couch and sat down. This time slightly closer. Not touching, but closer. There was still space between them. Enough to feel. Enough to measure. She stared at the dark reflection on the TV screen before pressing play. In the reflection, she saw herself. Late 30s. Still strong. Still loving. Still trying. Still waiting. She pressed the button. The screen went black. Then darker. Then silent. Daniel frowned slightly. Is it loading? Emily didn't answer. And then, the image appeared. No music. No title. No explanation. Just a simple video. Emily in the kitchen. A few years younger. Chopping vegetables. Smiling softly to herself. The angle was slightly off, like it had been recorded in a hurry. Daniel sat up immediately. Wait, is that you? Emily nodded. Just watch. The video cut quickly. Emily setting the table for two. Adjusting the plates carefully. Checking her phone. Glancing toward the door. The timestamp in the corner read 8:47 p.m. The door didn't open. Cut. Another clip. Emily sitting on the couch. Alone. Television playing in the background. Her eyes weren't on the screen. They were on the hallway. Waiting. Daniel shifted slightly. I don't remember this. I didn't ask you to, Emily replied softly. The clips continued. Small. Ordinary. Almost boring on their own. But together? They told a story. Emily humming while washing dishes. Emily folding laundry alone. Emily standing by the window at night, watching rain fall. No yelling. No accusations. No drama. Just time passing. Just silence growing. Daniel's jaw tightened. He looked uncomfortable now. His phone lay forgotten beside him. He wasn't leaning back anymore. He was leaning forward. Watching. Really watching. And then, the first spoken clip played. Emily sitting on the couch, wearing the blue sweater he once told her was his favorite. She looked directly into the camera. Her voice was soft. I don't think he sees me anymore. The living room felt smaller. Daniel's breathing changed slightly. On screen she continued. He's here. But he's not really here. And I don't know how to compete with whatever he's looking for. Daniel closed his eyes for a second. I never. Just watch, Emily whispered. The video jumped forward. Another night. A candle burned low at the center of the dining table. Two plates set neatly. One untouched. The clock behind her read 9:38 p.m. She looked tired. But hopeful. Cut. Another clip. She sat in her car outside the house. Hands gripping the steering wheel. Breathing deeply. Before going inside. Preparing herself. For what? Daniel swallowed hard. I didn't know you felt like this. Emily didn't look at him. That's the problem. The screen went dark again. Then one final clip appeared. Emily facing the camera directly. No smile this time. No pretending. Just honesty. I know he wants something exciting, she said quietly. I hear it in his voice. I see it in the way he looks past me instead of at me. Daniel's eyes locked on the screen. I'm still here, the Emily in the video continued. I'm still loving him the same way. But I don't think he's loving me the same way anymore. Silence. Then the final line. You said you wanted something real to watch. This is real. This is what loving someone alone feels like. The screen went black. The room was silent. No rain. No TV glow. Just darkness. And two reflections staring back at themselves. Daniel didn't move. His face looked older in the reflection. Tired. Regretful. I didn't know, he whispered. But this time, the words sounded smaller. Weaker. Emily finally turned toward him. Not knowing doesn't stop the feeling, she said quietly. It just lets it grow. Daniel looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time in a long time. And what he saw wasn't anger. It wasn't drama. It wasn't manipulation. It was something worse. It was hurt that had been patient. Hurt that had waited. Hurt that had hoped. He opened his mouth. Closed it again. Then finally asked. So what is this? Emily leaned back slowly. I already told you, she said. I just needed you to watch.